This video was brought to you by Ground News. When you think of grocery chains, Amazon likely isn't all that high up on your list. In fact, even if you were to think of things that Amazon does, you're probably naming online shopping, Prime Video, Echo, weird drone things, AWS, and even Twitch before you get to groceries. And that's probably pretty disappointing for the Seattle tech giant, who, after struggling in grocery for years, tried to properly break into the market in 2017 with their $14 billion acquisition of Whole Foods. However, considering that 16 years later Amazon still isn't thriving in grocery, it's maybe not unreasonable to label Amazon's foray into the space as a bit of a failure. But is that really fair? Well, in this video, we're going to unpack the three major elements of Amazon's grocery strategy and discuss whether their multi-billion-dollar investment in the space was a colossal waste of money. When Amazon announced its acquisition of Whole Foods in 2017, it's fair to say that it shook the grocery market. And that's because analysts suspected that Amazon would bring their success from e-commerce to physical retail and quickly wipe out their new competitors. In fact, such was this concern that other chains saw their stocks fall as the market feared Amazon's dominance in another domain. But that's not exactly what materialized. Growth at Whole Foods has been broadly stagnant since Amazon took the reins, growing just 10% since 2018, well below the pace set by competitors like Kroger, Albertsons, and Aldi, and even slower than smaller health chains like Sprouts and Natural Grocers. So what has Amazon actually done since taking over? Well, when it comes to product, Amazon has refreshed the Whole Foods 365 private label line, with them hoping to increase margins by selling more products that they make themselves. This is a similar strategy to the one they've used online too, where they rolled out various private label lines on Amazon, such as Amazon Basics and Amazon Essentials, designed to directly compete with products they already see doing well on the marketplace. Amazon has also rolled out their personalization algorithms to help regions better select their product lineup. This uses store metrics as well as data from Prime members to customize the products sold store by store, with a former Amazon employee telling CNBC that a Cupertino store is a very different experience versus walking into a store in Northern California. And these algorithms play into the role of Amazon's new foragers, whose job it is to select niche and local products which resonate with specific markets. The tech goes further than just that though, with Whole Foods finally introducing self-service scanners into their stores, something that the company had previously been hesitant to do. Now, admittedly, self-service scanners are nothing new, and that was just Whole Foods playing catch-up. But Amazon are among the first to trial biometric payment, with palm scanners allowing shoppers to pay automatically with Amazon One. The thing is, though, that these efforts haven't been as successful as many people hoped. It seems that the high-tech innovations have left customers broadly unimpressed, while in home delivery and online ordering, where many expected Amazon to shine, things haven't gone that well either. Now, that's ultimately at least in part due to scale. Whole Foods might be a big, well-known brand, but its footprint is pretty small, at only 500 stores. And that makes it hard for Amazon to reach enough customers, as unlike delivering toilet roll or printer ink from centralized warehouses, fresh and frozen items just don't travel as well. So without distribution across the entire country, actually getting to everyone's door is a big ask. Amazon has also reportedly found the layout of Whole Foods stores to be a little too varied, which makes using the stores as local distribution centers a bit more tricky. And that puts them at a big disadvantage when competing against supermarket giants like Walmart, whose simple stores and 10 times higher store count gives them a major leg up when it comes to online distribution. The other big issue is just the price and reputation of Whole Foods. Customers often associate Whole Foods with high prices, and while some do appreciate the quality and variety offered, many can't or won't pay to afford it. Now, Amazon has taken some steps to reduce prices, especially for Prime members, but it could be argued that this has just backfired. devaluing the brand slightly in the eyes of their most loyal and willing to pay customers. So, rather than Amazon reshaping the grocery industry with their acquisition of Whole Foods, the industry has broadly outpaced Amazon. Pressured by the new big tech entrant, other brands have stepped up their game, not only keeping pace, but in many instances performing better than Amazon. When it comes to Whole Foods then, it appears that Amazon has done less than many people expected, not fully utilizing their scale and technological prowess to disrupt the market. But the same can't be said for their Amazon Fresh stores. That's because rather than aiming for variety and carefully sourced products, Fresh is all about convenience. Now, even if you've never been to one of these stores, you've likely heard of them as Amazon's checkoutless shops, which use cameras and sensors to detect your purchases, allowing you to leave without paying. Although, obviously, your Amazon account is charged later. Now, call it 1984 inspired if you like, but it is impressive technology. The thing is, it's just not that popular. The novelty of just walking out of a shop certainly is exciting, with queues often emerging around new branches in their first few weeks. But when things settle in and excitement runs down, there are a number of core complaints. Firstly, partly as a result of the store's high-tech design, many say that the stores feel bland and Spartan, with an executive telling Bloomberg that they just feel soulless. Secondly, as a more convenience-based store, Amazon Fresh products can often be expensive, especially when compared to larger retailers. Thirdly, the product selection in the stores is often lacking, with them focusing on efficiency rather than a differentiated or unique offering. Beyond, of course, the vague vibe that you're stealing something. Now, this limited success has already led Amazon to shut down some of their Fresh stores, as well as pausing their expansion plans. But they do seem to have a plan to turn things around here. Firstly, to tackle the soulless atmosphere, Amazon has announced their plans to refresh store design, adding more color and brightness, as well as introducing Krispy Kreme coffee and donut stands near the store's entrance. Now, these redesigned stores are being rolled out and specifically marketed in a number of cities. But if they're successful, then Amazon say they'll be ready to roll out the designs across the country. Secondly, Amazon plans to add an additional 1,500 items to the previously limited inventory, allowing for cheaper and more unique products. The hope seemingly is that while they will never be able to compete with the price and selection of Walmart or Aldi, they could try to undercut and offer greater convenience than stores like Kroger. The thing is, though, that that's a tough balance, with the MD of Credit Suisse remarking that he believes that Amazon are trying to compete where they can't compete, which is local. Going on to remark that Amazon continues to offer no value or differentiation besides just the technology. Speaking of technology, it's worth noting that Whole Foods are also trialing this just walk out approach to stores, as well as partially rolling out the dash carts, which are used in some Amazon Fresh locations. But the success rate of this has been similarly mixed, leaving some to wonder if the issue really is the local soulless format, or that people just don't like the high-tech approach as much as Amazon initially hoped. For years now, in many markets, you've been able to purchase fresh food and drink from Amazon.com. But the thing is that it's never been all that easy. That's because despite being on Amazon.com, Amazon Fresh, yes, they call their stores and their online delivery service the same thing, God knows why, has its own completely separate basket, different delivery prices and minimums, and until recently was only open to Prime members. And while these might sound like minor issues, they're really not. When it comes to the basket, if you go to Amazon.com to purchase a steak, a pack of bell peppers, and a chocolate bar, you could easily find yourself starting 3 completely separate orders, with the steak dispatched from Whole Foods, peppers from Amazon Fresh, and the chocolate sufficiently shelf-stable enough to come directly from Amazon warehouses. This meant that you'd be making 3 totally separate deliveries, each with different delivery fees. The chocolate from Amazon would be free for Prime members. The peppers from Fresh will be subject to a minimum spend and could cost up to $10 to deliver. And the Whole Foods basket Well, that's a whole separate deal again. Plus, you could only do any of this if you were already paying over $100 a year for Amazon Prime. It's also worth noting that this complication extends beyond the US, with Amazon partnering with other retailers in international markets, including shipping Morrisons groceries in the UK, despite not actually owning Morrisons. Now, understandably, this messy online solution wasn't all that popular. So as part of Amazon's recent announcements, they said that they'll be allowing non-Prime members to place orders on Amazon Fresh for the first time, and they'd be streamlining all of the baskets into one. But it's not clear that this will actually help all that much. With an estimated 170 million Prime members in the US and only about 124 million households, basic math suggests that a large percentage of households already have Prime. Also, with non-members subject to higher delivery fees, up to $13.99, and a minimum spend of $150, it's not clear that this, nor a streamlined basket, will be enough to pull people in. And even if they can, it's not obvious that they'll be all that profitable doing so. Grocery delivery is an expensive business, and even Amazon isn't immune to those challenges. With Bloomberg reporting that Amazon required a grocery order of $115 in order to break even in 2010. And a decade later, that break-even point is still believed to be between $90 and $100. Now, using Whole Foods and Amazon Fresh stores as fulfillment centers could help them reach more people and bring down costs. But they still have a long way to go on building out a fully fledged delivery network for grocery. It seems then that Amazon is learning quite how challenging this business can be. They were hoping that their scale would just push them through. But with razor-thin margins, the grocery business is just a hard one to tackle. Many are still hopeful though, and Amazon could still lean on their algorithms, data, and technological expertise to improve their grocery offering. Or they could simply increase their profit by selling consumer data and insights elsewhere. The thing is though, that thus far Amazon seems pretty scared to fully lean in, preferring small and incremental improvements to anything overarching. Now, this might be a good strategy long term, but right now it looks like their new strategy for grocery is just them leaning on the introduction of donuts and smaller baskets rather than doing anything truly different. So maybe Amazon's grocery nightmare isn't over just yet. And if you want to continue following Amazon's struggles in grocery and beyond, then the best place to do so is with Ground News. It's a website and app developed by a former NASA engineer on a mission to give readers an easy, data-driven, and objective way of reading the news. That's because every story comes with a visual breakdown of the political bias, factuality, and ownership of the source's reporting, all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. It's not just that either. I especially like their blind spot feature, which highlights stories disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. For example, this story on rising water temperatures in the Gulf Coast is a blind spot for the right. So if you only get your news from right-leaning sources, you might have totally missed this. Meanwhile, this story on China's proposed training facility in Cuba is a blind spot for the left. So you might have missed that story instead. Now, you may be thinking, why should I be paying attention to partisan sources at all? Well, part of being informed about the world around us is also being informed of potential political slants and echo chambers. That's because if we know where these views are coming from, we'll be better equipped to not only spot ongoing bias, but to engage in healthy dialogue with those who hold different views. In fact, I know I've personally benefited a whole lot from Ground News. I've gotten much better at spotting political bias, and I've surprisingly challenged some of my own views too. As such, I highly encourage our viewers to give Ground News a try. We're even offering a 30% discount on their Vantage plan for all TLDR viewers. And that includes access to a feature called My News Bias, which is basically a dashboard for your news diet. Sign up to find out how your reading habits change over the next week. What are your top sources? Are you engaging with diverse perspectives? What about your favorite topics? Find out with Ground News Vantage, which is 30% off only using our link. So make sure that you go to ground.news/TLDR or click the link in the description to get started and support an independent news platform working to make the media landscape more transparent.